In this video, we are going to be reviewing a couple things from Dr. Karan. Now, I can already see that there's a lot of feed your gut stuff, or things that say feed your gut, and that sort of automatic, and I didn't see meat, so that immediately made me think of either gut bacteria or fiber, and those are very unhealthy. But then once again, we'll talk about the science behind what's exactly going on, or some of the studies that were used, for instance, that prove all of this being very unhealthy. So yeah, let's get to it.
Welcome to Feed Your Gut, a series where I show you how to make the best gut-friendly meals from around the world. Episode 1 begins with India and dal. This is going to be rocket fuel for your bowels and combines 3 different types of lentils. This meal
Okay, you don't want lentils. You don't want lentils. I'm gonna start there, but we'll hear them out first.
contains high amounts of soluble fiber to bulk up your stool and unblock your pipes. Boil with turmeric to up your antioxidant content in it.
Okay, there's a couple things here. So first, we don't want to be bulking up the stool. We already know that fiber is very damaging, and the best way to prove this is the study, which had about 63 to 66 people, or you can even look at Kent Carnivore for that matter, who lost his colon because of fiber, just the study. Okay, so what exactly did this study do? Well, this study basically had 3 groups in it. It had a group with very high amounts of fiber, it had a group with little amounts of fiber / medium amounts of fiber, and group with no amounts of fiber at all. And they gave the food, and they were pretty much all suffering from either anal bleeding, constipation, stomach bloating, basically stomach pain of one way or another. And stomach problems, doesn't really matter what it was, stomach cramps. And what ended up happening is they increased the increased fiber content people. You would think, based on what we hear all the time, that all of these symptoms that they had decreased. Nope, turns out they all increased. In fact, they increased dramatically. So dramatically that it was like oh my god, this is really, really bad news. We made everything way worse. And then the next group after that, the middle fiber group, didn't actually have the same amount of symptoms. In fact, they had less symptoms, but they still were experiencing those symptoms. Now, the no fiber group, take a guess. What do you think? They had none. Not a single problem. No anal bleeding, no constipation, no stomach cramps, no stomach bloating, no stomach pain at all. None of it. So yeah, that's the first thing. Fiber is not healthy. And then we look at it and we go, well, what exactly is fiber? Why is that happening? The reason that's happening is because fiber is nothing. We can't use anything. It's cellulose. So we can't use anything out of it. We can't get any value out of fiber. And because of that, the only way that you can get value out of fiber, anything at all for that matter out of fiber, is if you have a cecum. Now, you don't have a cecum. The only things that have cecums are usually herbivores, or actually no, they definitely only have cecums. And the reason is because they are actually able to harbor and ferment basically they are able to take tons of this bacteria, harbor it in their stomach, and that bacteria is the thing that breaks down that fiber. Without it, you cannot break down fiber, and fiber is useless. And not only that, fiber hinders nutrient absorption as well. So another thing that you don't want, it also steals your water. You don't want that either. There's a lot of bad things about fiber. He also said turmeric here recently. Now, if you know actually what turmeric is not healthy. It's like a chemotherapy drug for that matter. And the reason is because it'll pretty much cause the cell to go through ferroptosis, if I remember correctly. It's either ferroptosis or some induced cell form of death. And it has to do with increasing the reactive oxygen species. I'm not going to explain reactive oxygen species in this one because I don't think he's going to talk about glucose too much, so I won't go into detail about that. But yeah, once again, you don't want reactive oxygen species. They're really damaging. And this, you don't want it, so no.
A pressure cooker. Now time to make your fiber-rich, phytonutrient-dense masala. Obviously start with a few lashings of ghee. This is...
Okay, I'll get behind this. That's good. This is actually good. I agree with this. I'll agree that saturated fat is what you want. You don't want the polyunsaturated fat. You don't want seed oils. Definitely not. So I'll agree with this guy. Yeah, good. Thank you.
It's rich in butyric acid, gut-friendly short-chain fatty acids. Throw in some cumin seeds rich in iron.
Short-chain fatty acids. By the way, specifically cows and these ruminants or anything that's eating a lot of fiber that has a cecum and can digest it, they are turning all of that fiber into short chain chain fatty acids. Both herbivores and carnivores, humans, they all use the same primary fuel source. They all want to use fatty acid. They don't want to be using glucose as the primary fuel source. And the reason is because glucose produces way less ATP. It's like 30 ATP compared to like 100 and something ATP. It's insane. So it's like 3 times the difference amount of ATP that you get from using fatty acid as fuel. So you would rather want to use fatty acid as fuel. Not only that, it produces less reactive oxygen species, less damage to your cells, less need of antioxidants, that's what antioxidants are. Antioxidants like as in oxidative stress, reactive oxygen species. So yeah.
Magnesium and calcium and fiber, obviously. Throw in some chilies and bay leaves for more flavor and more dietary fiber. Red onions filled with beneficial flavonoids like anthocyanins, which give it the deep red color.
Okay, so you don't want those anthocyanins. Again, this has to do with vitamin and mineral interactions, and we already know that vitamin E is not something that you want. Like you don't want this stuff. You do not want this stuff. You don't want this stuff at all. It's really unhealthy. In high quantities anyways it is. And the reason is because it's preventing the absorption of other vitamins and minerals that your body would prefer or wants. And it does this in such high... The problem is that plants have such high amounts of this vitamin E and vitamin C and all these antioxidants. And the reason... it doesn't have to do with the fact that they want you to eat them. It's the fact that they are killing themselves at such a rapid rate, like an extremely rapid rate. If you're interested in that science behind that, you should check out my Rubisco enzyme video. If you're interested in the science behind all of this, I talk about every single one of these things in my Science Behind Carnivore playlist. So it will explain literally everything here. I'm just showing you from a real life perspective what this looks like. Everything that I mentioned in my Science Behind Carnivore playlist. It explains this.
Ginger and garlic, excellent prebiotics which encourage the growth of beneficial bacterial strains like bifidobacteria. Keep it coming with the herbs and spices. The more antioxidants, the merrier. You're
No.
smashing your fiber content, and now you're flexing with fenugreek. And don't forget tomatoes, rich in the plant antioxidant lycopene, which supports gut health. At this point, I've already lost count of how many herbs, spices, and sources of fiber you've added, but you'll be shitting like a horse tomorrow. For a
Oh my god, you definitely don't want... fiber's already pretty bad. But if you have gut autoimmune problems, like this is the last thing that you want. The last thing that you want. I am a great example. Kent Carnivore is even better because he lost his colon because of this. But there's also a guy who literally died for listening to the doctor's advice on fiber. There's probably a couple other guys. But there's like one recorded case study, and it was a really old 73-year-old guy, if I remember correctly. You don't want this stuff. Don't do it.
You might want this in your cupboard. That's right. It's ghee. This golden goop is a type of clarified butter. The water content and milk solids are removed, making it virtually lactose and casein free. Good.
Okay, I'm actually going to say real quick, I do agree with him on this. I would much rather have ghee than I would butter. I do have to agree with that. The lactose part is definitely one of the parts for me anyways, because I definitely like to avoid as much glucose as I possibly can. I see glucose as very unhealthy, very, very unhealthy. I have a video. Yeah, my Science Behind Carnivore playlist explains that in way more detail. I won't explain it in this one, but.
Good news if you're lactose intolerant or have milk protein allergies, because you can chow down on this with impunity. The removal of water and milk solids also contributes to a longer shelf life. Ghee also has a higher smoke point than butter and other oils.
That's actually, this might be a little understated, but that is actually very, very important. That's very, very, very important. Yeah. So I think this one's definitely a little understated. You don't want to oxidize and basically turn the fats that you're cooking on, like if you're using a pan or whatever, into the oxidized version, because that's how you get those toxic. That's why seed oils are toxic. That's a nice way of putting it. It's because they're reacting with oxygen and they don't have that shelf life, so then they have to go through this entire manufacturing process. So that's very understated, but yes.
This means it can be cooked at higher temperatures with a reduced risk of destroying its phytonutrients. Speaking of nutrients, ghee...
I wouldn't say I mean, I guess I wouldn't say it's a phytonutrient. A phytonutrient's like a plant nutrient. Is animal, but I guess technically speaking, it's derived from the plant. So maybe you can say it's a phytonutrient. I wouldn't say it's a phytonutrient, though. Definitely not.
Ghee is a richer source of fat-soluble vitamins than butter, vitamins like vitamin D, E, A, and K. Additionally, it contains a greater concentration of butyric acid. Butyric acid is a type of short-chain fatty acid involved in maintaining the lining of the intestine. It's thought...
Yeah, like I said, you can just get all this from meat.
to have an anti-inflammatory effect on the gut and generally good for gut health. Plus,
oh, well, why is that? Well, first off, it's not it's okay. So if we just look at butyric acid, or in this case, we'll just call it fatty acid. If we look at saturated fatty acid, which is what he's talking about, butyric acid, and we look at polyunsaturated fatty acid, the reason why it's less inflammatory is because it doesn't have a double bond. And that's a really big deal. And the reason is because when you have that double bond, you allow for resonance stabilization, which also leads to basically more instability indirectly. And that causes for a pi bond to exist. And that pi bond has delocalized electrons. And those delocalized electrons absolutely love to react with reactive oxygen species. And you don't want them to react with reactive oxygen species because they're basically just both druggies, I guess is the best way to put it. You don't want any of this. It's damage. It's a lot of damage. So yeah, that's the reason why it's anti-inflammatory. There's also conjugated linoleic acid, which is also a pretty big part because the conjugated form of linoleic acid is much less inflammatory than the linoleic acid form found. And the conjugated linoleic acid form, once again, you find that in animals, not so much plants. So yeah.
just to note, butter isn't bad for you and ghee won't suddenly make you healthier. It's all about moderation.
No, okay, I don't agree with the moderation part. It's not. You just look at all this from a biochemistry perspective. You just look at it purely from a biochemistry perspective and all of this will make sense. It's like, oh, this is why people are aging. All you have to do is look at it from a perspective of time and like the reaction happening over time. If you just assume that your body is a chemical reaction and like time takes a role on it, then you can already get a pretty good sense of like, I have a video on this on like why does this make you age quicker? Like this, it explains this, and it sort of explains age from a perspective of biochemistry and like what's going on. It tries to simplify it, but it's really good.
If you pair olive oil with your spinach, then the healthy fats in the olive oil will enhance the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins in the spinach, like vitamin K, A, and E. If you eat your salmon...
Okay, yeah, but I would much rather choose a different fat than olive oil. Once again, you don't want higher amounts of polyunsaturated fats. You want higher amounts of saturated fats. And saturated fats, once again, high in beef, lard, tallow, ghee, butter. If it's an animal fat, it's higher in saturated fats. And you want saturated fats because they're more stable and they're less prone to oxidation as a general rule. And that's what you want.
With the leafy greens, then the vitamin D in the salmon can boost the absorption of calcium in the leafy greens by 50%.
Okay, oh, there's a lot of complexity to this. So first, there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to eat leafy greens of any sort. The reason is because even if you are going to quote unquote absorb the calcium, that oxalate content is going to steal the calcium back anyways, if not more of it, because that's what oxalates do. They have extremely high affinities for metals, especially metals with a +2 charge like calcium. Oh wow, calcium has a +2 charge, right? So the higher the charge, the more the affinity. That's sort of how it works. Yeah, so once again, you don't want this stuff. That's why it's really attracted to metals. So yeah, so you don't. Once again, this is just like not. Don't do this. Don't do this. Do not mix the two. Either eat one or eat the other. Do not mix both. You're not actually getting too much glucose from it. So I guess I can say you can have both, but it's not healthy. You're not optimizing for nutrition. Definitely not optimizing.
And helps our bodies utilize it more efficiently. If you add berries to your yogurt, then the combination of probiotics in the yogurt and the prebiotic fibers and antioxidants in the berries can promote the growth and activity of beneficial gut bacteria.
So there's, once again, if you want the best possible gut bacteria, it's meat, and it's meat only. Now, sadly, there's not too much detail in the science behind this, but if you look at all of the biochemistry in my Science Behind Carnivore playlist, you will see very quickly that it seems as if you reduce meat content, you're like really going to screw your brain over, because it's related to autism and stuff. I have a video on that as well. So this is, once again, this is not healthy. Please God, do not do this. If you really want beneficial gut bacteria, like just meat and meat only, you don't need all this prebiotics and probiotic stuff. You don't need supplements. You don't need any of this. I can't even sell you on any of this. That's the thing. I make no money. Like, I can't tell you, hey, go do that. Like, that's not. It's just not healthy. It's not healthy. I have nothing to gain. So I'm not trying to sell you. That's the best way to put it. I don't have any sponsors. So
if you eat tomatoes with avocados, then the healthy monounsaturated fat in the avocado can increase the absorption of the fat-soluble antioxidant lycopene in tomatoes.
Okay, we already explained the antioxidant thing and the ribisco enzyme and antioxidants not being healthy. The fat-soluble vitamin, like, will it help the absorption? Yes. Do you want to help the absorption of vitamin E in this case? No, you don't. No. There's too much of it in there, dude. No.
If you mix beans with bell peppers, then the vitamin C in the bell peppers can increase the absorption of the plant-based non-heme.
Okay, no. Okay, first, there's a reason why vegans are anemic. Every single phytotoxin, I really do mean it seems as if every single phytotoxin, as well as the concentration of vitamins and minerals in plants, are so they're always trying to prevent iron absorption in animals, and I have no idea why. This is why vegans go anemic. Like, this is why so many vegans are anemic, and it's because of this. It's because non-heme iron, what is it? 5 to 20% bioavailability compared to 15 to 35% bioavailability of meat. So already bioavailability is way lower. Phytates, another phytotoxin, they will form a complex around that non-heme iron, preventing it from being absorbed. Already another thing. Another thing is, like, if you look at the vitamin and mineral interactions, these vitamins and minerals will all compete for the same transporter than iron does. And because of that, what ends up happening is you get no iron absorption in the process. So once again, it's like, it's really, really not healthy. Do not do this.
Iron in the beans, making it more available for our bodies to use. You can do the same with strawberries and cereal or oranges and nuts.
No, don't have cereal, please. If you want to be healthy, don't have cereal. All right, so I hope you see why you don't want fiber. Please don't listen to his thing on fiber. He is right, though, on the fatty acid part. I do agree with the fatty acid part. So at the very least, that's true. But please do not have fiber. Ghee is good, though. I will agree. I will agree with that. And the biochemistry supports that as well. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. If you found the video informative and you liked how you could just basically apply all this biochemistry to real life and seeing it being applied to real life, then once again, like, comment, and subscribe, because it really does help the channel grow. And if you want to see my content ahead of time, then click the join button down below where you can see my content ahead of time. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.